All right, guys, we're back. This time we're going to compare the last two games we reviewed that are SimCity-like, right? So we're talking about Quadropolis from Days of Wonder and Between Two Cities from Stonemaier Games with their respective expansions, public services for Quadropolis and capitals for Between Two Cities. Jess, as we've said before, we're co-workers at an undisclosed video game company. You work in creative services and a huge board gamer. We've spent a lot of time chatting about board games. Anna, you work at Double Fine, super indie publisher extraordinaire, home to a lot of great games. You worked on Broken Age and Psychonauts, like
True Legend, like classics.
Classics, yeah. By the way, we had your boss on one of the past episodes, and he's going to come back again.
Am I fired?
From this show. Yeah, this is your last one. We're done with it after this. Okay, so we already did full reviews. If people want to catch up, they could watch the last two episodes. But let's just compare the two now directly. Now, the one thing that came up a lot was artwork. So you're the designer.
Well, I'm not specifically a designer, but I work in design, yeah. But yeah, just comparing the two games, from the past reviews, I did prefer Quadropolis over Between Two Cities. Thinking back on it, it was because of the way the games present. Because I feel like for me, I'm a very tactile and visual gamer. So if a game is well designed in terms of the art and it functions well, the theme functions well with the game itself, then that really hits home for me. And I felt Quadropolis did a better job of that in terms of the art. And again, I described it as an elegant design, something that was that just worked and it just looked good. And then the pieces, you know, everything about it was just good to me. And with Between Two Cities, solid game, scales well for a lot of players, but just the way it presents, and like I was complaining a little bit about the scoring board, but it's not a big deal, but just that overall presentation, it just didn't really do it for me.
Okay, we'll get back to that. What do you think about the art real quick, Anna?
I agree with what Jess said about how Quadropolis had great clarity. Like you never really struggled to know exactly what you're building, and it looked exciting. Like it looked very colorful, and it was very inviting, right? So whereas Between Two Cities, which is a game that I actually like more, was a little bit drab. There's like some things that it did really well. Like I think I really liked the individual pieces. Like that did have color, and like the wooden pieces are great. But then like it was so inconsistent. Like the iconography was very clear, but every single tile kind of looked the same in a lot of ways.
For sure. Yeah.
So even though I preferred the game, I thought, the theme or the presentation just wasn't as solid.
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. I give the edge to Quadropolis when it comes to art. It just pops. It's way more colorful. It's way more inviting. The buildings kind of look like a lot of video games that you see, like village building games, where maybe Clash of Clans like in a way, where this is drab. But now that I have these two boxes in front of me, I actually realize I like the Between Two Cities box better. Part of it is because we have the special edition that has the gold foil.
Yeah, very respectable.
Yeah, it's a very nice box.
Yeah.
Although I will say, function-wise, with the insert, Quadropolis is fantastic. This box barely fits everything once you have it all piled in there. Like I'm always like kind of squeezing it in. Okay, so in terms of just gameplay, general gameplay, how do you compare the two? Which one do you give the edge to, Jess?
I mean, based on my review, I like the gameplay of Quadropolis better, just because the choices that you get to make, the construction site, how you pull from that and bring it into your city, it just, with the theme, it just feels like a solid, game in terms of matching the theme with what's going on in the game. Whereas with Between Two Cities, didn't feel that as much. You're just drafting and placing, and again, it goes back to presentation for me. So,
How about you, Anna?
So what's interesting to me is like I'm trying to understand why one game stresses me the heck out, whereas the other one I feel just like I walk away and I'm like buoyant afterwards. And I think even though they both kind of score at the end, so you don't get the payoff immediately, but I feel like the payoff that you feel every single time you pick the tiles and present them to the other players, it's just like it feels so good. To be like, look, Shu, like I got this, and you're like, yes, there's something about that interaction that is a much more pleasant experience. Like I find Quadropolis very stressful. Like I feel like every single time I take a turn, I'm just like, people hate me because I'm just like, God, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life right now? What am I doing with my city?
No.
Thank you guys. Yeah, I was really hoping you would. just the decisions and like the doubting myself. Like I feel really bad about my decisions when I play, like when I take my turn for Quadropolis, because invariably I like mess it up and I see like a move that I could have made that was far better, like immediately as soon as like it's Jess's turn, you know? And that is not the feeling that I have with Between Two Cities. Like I feel like I've done the best that I could have given, you know, the options that I had. And so just
Which
the
is
overall
interesting
experience.
because I think there's even more decision, like which piece do you give to which player? I think that's
Right.
a tougher decision than where am I going to place this in my city. But yeah, it's an interesting point. I don't quite agree with you on the stress, but I agree with you about like the dynamic between the players. For me, I love the gameplay in Between Two Cities. Just like that one thing that they design where you're working with people on each side, and how do you decide who gets which piece, and you're hoping to convince them to give you the better piece because they're all working with other people.
Yeah.
I think that's a super awesome part of Between Two Cities. Real quick, so how did you guys think these games compared to the SimCity video game? Like, does one do a better job? And I know that's ultimately not the most important thing about whether this is a good board game or not, but being SimCity fans, how did you think these two games compared? Which one did a better job, Jess?
I'd say, I mean, I think when I thought about both games, both of them do the different types of buildings and how they score. That reminded me of SimCity in terms of like you have your commercial area, you have your residential area, and that's you have to build your city that way in order to kind of maximize, you know, what you're going to be doing in the game. And I think both games did that well in terms of that's the city that you're building, right? You have to build specific buildings together, and other buildings affect, you know, the ones next to it in both cases. So, you know, I thought both of them did a good job in that, but ultimately I think we all agreed with the games that in some ways lack that city building spirit, right?
You said something like when we weren't shooting, which is that you said that, like the SimCity on pause or something like that.
Oh, I think that was, it was mine.
Oh. Something ingenious that our cameraman actually said is that Quadropolis was kind of like a SimCity on pause. Like you basically, you know, you set everything up, but you don't get the payoff, and it's like, okay, and go, and then like you score on your turn. But what both games kind of do is that they delay like it's a game that delays the scoring aspect of it. But I think Between Two Cities, it's such a fast game. It takes less time to get to the scoring part, and you have like it feels like a team spirit thing. Whereas Quadropolis, it's like, oh god, I did so badly on this one scoring thing, and like you're announcing the score, so like, you know, whoever is doing it, and it's just 0.
Yeah. For me, the SimCity comparison, I think I give them a draw because they both do the whole thing about like, okay, you want to place tiles next to certain tiles to score certain districts. Maybe Quadropolis gets the edge there if you're looking for the SimCity experience, just because on your map itself there are districts to build in. Maybe it's a little bit more similar to SimCity where you're like tied to certain areas or zones.
Yeah, Quadropolis has the management thing. That's both of these games are missing the management thing, which means that what I mean by that is that you can build certain things in the city, and then they maybe like produce, you get more money, or like you get more people or something like that. There's no like there's way more management when you play a game like that, and Quadropolis has, you get additional resources that you can then place.
That's a good
and I think
point.
that's the most, in terms of similarity, I would say it has a little bit of management.
Yeah, and
in
then
it.
going back to presentation, you get a little more cartoony, gamey look with Quadropolis.
Wait, you guys changed my mind. I agree. Quadropolis, better SimCity analog. All right, so we're going to do a real quick D20 again for your final thoughts on how the two games compare.
All right. 10. Oh, wow.
One.
I got the
We got
one.
2 ones in 2
Good job.
episodes. All right, so 10, 1, 9. All right, let's take a couple minutes. Okay, now you have, this is the final words you're going to say, or word you're going to say on the matter. Between these two games, what did you think? Jess, what'd you roll?
10. So Quadropolis, great presentation strategy. Between Two Cities, good for groups.
All right. Second place, I had 9 words to make my final thoughts. Quadropolis, fine. This, better. That saved me 2 words. Just this, better. Fast and fun, get it.
I should have just written this.
Yeah, between two cities,
No.
3 words. You guys are wasting words.
You guys, okay, so this is.
I didn't know we could point.
I
Okay,
had-
Anna,
I
you
had-
had 1 word.
I have 1 word.
Like off camera, you were like, "What do I do? What am I going to do with this 1 word?" I'm like, "That's up to
Like,
you."
what is what do I have to capture here? So my first effort at this, I'm just gonna read 2 of these, but my first effort was cities.
What does that mean?
It's supposed to be a reference to between 2 cities.
Oh, you should have said this.
Yeah, I should have said this, but I didn't know you could point. That seems
Yeah,
illegal
I didn't know
to
that
me.
either.
But really, the real word that I wrote is co-op.
Okay. In reference to.
In reference to between 2 cities, because I thought that was the cool thing that it had.
Yeah. All right. We're not going to vote with our thumbs. We're just going to pick 1 game. Finally, I think it's pretty obvious, but just to be clear, your final pick between these 2 games.
Quadropolis.
Quadropolis. Your final pick.
I'm gonna. No, I'm just kidding. Surprise! No, between 2 cities.
Between 2 cities for me as well. So this wins 2-1. All right, thanks guys. Now Seanbaby is back after a brief hiatus, and he's going to help us wrap up this episode with a discussion about the game A-Team.
Welcome to another episode of Bad Gameroo Analog. This one is A-Team, BA lends a hand in the race for the formula. Now, you would think in an A-Team game the conceit would be that you yourself are BA or Sergeant Bosco Baracus, bad attitude. That's actually what the BA stands for in there. But he has gone in ahead of you because you know he's the master of undercover work since he's a 6'3" man with a mohawk and 80 pounds of jewelry. You want him to do the undercover work. He set up this op, and you're the rest of the A-Team. They got Hannibal, they got the Scrounger, they got Face, and Howlin' Mad Murdoch, and the woman. They got the whole team's there, but you're not BA. And you pick up these BA cards, like BA tells you where it's at, which I think it's like the Chicago street slang from when he was a child. So it's sort of like BA tells you what it is, and like that's a good thing. This one is BA smooths the way, and roll again. There's like 50 of these. Basically, the whole deck is BA smooths the way. This card was blank, and I don't imagine that was intentional. So maybe I got a bad one. I don't know, but this one doesn't do anything. The point of the game is actually really great. When it says the race for the formula, it's actually the formula for a popular soft drink. They don't say whether it's Coke or Pepsi, but it's clearly one of those 2, and you're actually racing to protect the intellectual copyrights of that soda. So that's like the whole game, is you're doing this military infiltration of this place to stop people from stealing the formula for Coke. And you're not B.A. Baracus, and that's the game. There's not a single choice you make in the entire game. You just roll dice. Sometimes you get a card that says BA tells you what it is, and sometimes you get a card that does nothing. And that's the A-Team. BA lends a hand in the race for the formula.